Greetings. Welcome to the note. Good morning. Good morning, lads. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. Good morning. Yo, 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 yo. Morning, Frank. Morning, Michael. I'm still waiting. If you're the gentleman that won the account on Friday, I did send them a message. I haven't gotten anything yet. I'll follow up this morning as well. This is probably a tap back in to this area of interest. We're trying to flip on the 15. So this is actually looking like it's going to be a decent long here. It's actually a really nice tap back in. You should be looking at least for 98s. And we'll see where this goes. Letting it play out a little bit. We've got our first 15-minute candle. Not exactly convincing of direction. No trades for me yet. I think the long idea would have been all right. It's actually a decent freedom model short as well. But trying to determine if this is manipulation or not, that's quite rough to sell, even though that would have been 20 points. Excuse me. So, I mean, this is important as well because you get this, you're not expecting this necessarily. You could get a short from here, and I think that might, if it fails VWAP, then it's going to send it down. I put VWAP on the charts just for a little bit more study this week. But just because it works out quite nicely in these environments. But we'll see. We'll see. No positions yet. Five-minute disrespecting that imbalance, but still managing to keep its objective. Not super clear. I love that this looks beautiful and that looks beautiful. So, I mean, if we really start getting going here, then I think that this is a possibility at 880. You've got these as well, 746. They actually did take that. In fairness, we have taken some liquidity here. And I like that we kept those and then those. So more inclined to suggest that we finished our downside, but depends entirely on what happens when we tap into this area. Didn't do any back testing yesterday for those of you guys that were on and waiting for it. We'll make up for that this week. There was some stuff that I needed to take care of, so we will go beyond. There it goes. So I like that I liked this to trade up, and then if we get expansion, then great. But I'm still sitting on my hands as I was watching to see. I didn't really see any sort of entry. I think this was nice, closing underneath. Just nothing for me so far. And now I think London lows is our draw, 740s. Violent. Oof. Major panic, I think. There's your tap back in. I still think London lows are the target. But that was quite violent. So we'll see if this fails here or this candle is very, very strong. Then I think we take this and this ends up being manipulation. I'm going to find out very quick. That's a strong rejection, though, so we'll see. Not long, just not liking how that delivered so far. I think if you did take anything in here, you probably don't want it trading above the 66. It'd be nasty if that swept that out into here. Right? I think that this is probably valid. You're looking at that there. And then you'd want to see some sort of failure in here that would send us lower. Nasty if it ends up leaving these lows. Really nasty, actually. Let's see what ES is doing. Yep, same sort of thing. That's actually really dirty inversion. Oh my god. Yeah. We'll see what kind of reaction we get in here. This is an interesting formation. If we get manipulation, then I'm going to take a short. And we'll see if it ends up holding. Yeah, I think so too. I think that we at least trade down like probably this low. Would be my guess. 34. But I think we have to take this candle first. At least that's my hope. I'm not short yet. That's a brutal close, though. Goodbye. Stopped at 35, didn't take it. Wanted it, just didn't get it. And that was a brutal. Any sort of failure here, absolutely hitting that for this. But strong push and then manipulation. Wanted it in here, didn't get it. If you guys hit that already, then legends. And we'll see what kind of reaction we get from it if we end up. My expectation would be that we take that low at 34.50, which would also be this 35 low. And then if we get some sort of reaction, we'll ride it back up. Nice NW. Nice, 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 nice. Morning, Solo. Morning, Picks. My giant dome's in the way. My face. As much as I want that low to the left, and I think it will get tapped, I think the bigger concern is if we invert in here after taking London lows. Did you hit that here, or were you up? Were you up here, Matt? I'm more curious to see if we can ride along out of this. 793, beautiful. That's a really nice entry in here. Yeah. Ooh. That's not what they wanted to see. Nice rejection off the SPY 5 EMA. Okay. Not super wild about all this delivery. I think you've got a 5-minute SNDR here that also has a flat top. It's actually this one here, that 950 candle at 91s. The problem with trading up to there is that essentially you would be looking at this intermediate time frame movement. Yeah, I think if we're looking at analysis and you've got London that engulfs Asia, we have a very high chance of taking this low, especially as an objective. And then you've got, okay, our daily, in fact, we still have not cleaned up the daily, which is your next bias, right? That 34.5 low. So if we fail to flip here, then we can actually still comfortably look at a short. Is it higher probability than before? No, because we would expect this movement to have done both. Right? It just makes me pause. Makes me pause. Right, now that actually was a decent inversion afterwards, but it didn't tap back into there, which I would have liked. Really strong. Here's our 5 minutes so far, stabbing into this area. a very good time to buy. I'm curious to see what ends up happening in here if we get a violent reaction versus if we continue on. Violent stab in to our area of interest. This is a valid structural zone. We've now tapped the midpoint of it. All right, we've disrespected the midpoint of this. We seem to be violently moving from London lows. Not a ton of selling that's come in so far. The concern, of course, is the daily level that's still been left. We're going to find out very, very quickly if this gets held up here. Concern from the long side is your expectation would be something like this, and then this movement here should trade at least back into this. Depending on what goes on. That first imbalance probably puts in a new high above 88. At least that will be what you would expect. Morning, Donna. Morning, Matthias. Again, juicy flat top on the 5. So gauging this reaction that occurs in here. Very, very well could be building an SNDR to continue higher. Very important response now. Closure underneath this, I think we trade far lower into the 60s. This is my first trade of the day. Achieving its first initial objective, we're monitoring how it reacts to here. With a daily draw lower as well. Violent I did take some off underneath that low. We'll let the rest, if it comes back to 83, then I'm going to take it off fully there. I want it to respect this area, obviously, and then continue lower. Main reason is because we didn't take this daily low, and yesterday was bearish, or rather Friday was bearish. But this is just not extremely clean because you have a very valid long idea here inside of a bearish narrative. So not a lot that I like on either way. This didn't sweep and fail. And I mean, this is sort of where I think a lot of newer traders come into issues as well, because you start looking for, I don't know, is there any sort of major reason to sell? I don't know, maybe there's a 7-minute, I guess not. But you start looking for, you know, is there any sort of inversion in here that worked out? Maybe there's something on ES. If we go to one of these. Right. Nothing really. That 5 did sweep out. I think the NQ1 did not, so there's some decent SMT in there too. Morning, Andrew. So kicking and screaming, strong. Another shove down to the midpoint of our area of interest. This was your breaker. Right? If we get a very strong reaction out of this, that sends us up to here. And then weak selling probably continues higher, or it'll just be explosive. Excuse me. So I didn't take it off just yet. I'll let this ride back to break even. If it wants to take this daily low, we'll find out very, very quickly. And if it doesn't, then I've already taken some profits off. Not a lot to like out of this. From the short side as well. We follow the trend, but we're starting to really respect areas that we should on the bullish side, making it quite dangerous to hold shorts. Having a lot of troubles in here. Both sides, in fairness. Sell pressure, sweep underneath, strong movement. Right? Not a lot on either side that's really convincing, other than perhaps this candle. New 15-minute coming in hot in about 15 seconds. People will be buying this breaker for the push, right? Looking at these, looking at perhaps even a little bit higher. Here's our new 15-minute. Let's go. Failure would not be very good. Morning, sire. Who prefers trading based off of candlesticks price action than and using that for your entries than other signals? Back up into the 70s again. This is gonna do me dirty and then go, isn't it? Or just gonna blast it off and I'll be happy. We'll find out. Oh, that's a strong close. Okay, I'm gonna take that off there. Morning, Astrophile. So nasty business, sweeping underneath that 5. Strong hold of this breaker, sending us back up to here. I don't really like how this was finalized in here. But we're going to find out. I think they expect a strong reaction from this. Anything other than that, we continue higher. And it very well could be mitigating, but I just don't like it. So I'm sitting on my hands. Is that structural? It is actually. So this is a valid pullback. That's a valid break of structure, trade back in. Right? So I'm happy I took some profits there. I think that was a valid 1 minute structure break. And we're in a new long bullish structure here. So the economic cost is missing a long out of this by being short, but those of you guys that did hit it long, beautiful. I just like the reaction, and if we got that violent movement, then that would have been lovely for the daily low. I think this flat top is a major draw. I think that we're failing this 5, so we probably take this 5 minute, which is this high here at 88 as well. Just gonna figure out what happens if we stab back up into this. Not a lot to really like about this price action so far, if I'm honest. Not a lot. That might have been your flip back in as well. So that's actually quite nice. I think 88s are on deck. There they go. And we'll see if this expands above here, then I think you've got this 5-minute flat top. This ended up being your flip out of the breaker. Right? So those of you guys that were looking long. This sweep and fail ended up being beautiful as we stab back into this. And you're looking to clean up all of these now. You've now taken your 5-minute flat top. And away we go. Good morning, Kelowna. They call you Kelowna now. Right, so it would have been beautiful if this would have worked out nicely. It was a break in structure, so this ended up being a lovely long. We'll see if we end up trading to the other side, which will be like 850 or so. Yeah. Sure, man. Whatever you like. Are you on the west side or the east side? We moved here, everybody was like, do not live on the west side because the bridge. I was like, okay. And now all of our friends are on the west side. We're like, okay. Nice. Us too, yeah. Yeah. This is violent. This is taking no prisoners long. Get some lo-fi music in here. It says lo-fi hip-hop radio, these things from ETF. Chop City until it wants to expand. Right? So I think in hindsight, I was very interested in this daily low. I was a little surprised that didn't get hit, but I think I put a little bit too much weight off of this structural area to trade back down and then being violent because of the 5-minute SNDR. And as a result, I think the economic cost of missing this. I got taken out here, which was fine. I took profits as a result. But I think that this would have been the trade of the day. Right, this is your second distribution, both with your lower time frame and your flip. So this you would expect to be violent, and that would have been beautiful. Stepping back into this order block here. right? And now we've got this up here. We've got 850. And I think we talked about that too when we saw that this was beautiful. Not really getting the reaction we wanted out of this. We got our violent sell-off, and then it just went sideways. We'll be a little bit surprised if we didn't close above this 15. We'll be a little bit surprised. I think that is that high there. Yeah, that one. 804s. Did anybody grab longs out of that? I know some of you legends did. We'll see what goes on with this. If we get a nice movement back down, taking a higher time frame area of interest, there's your 5. We're trying to figure out this 15 can close above here or not, and I think it will. Wow. Wow. Not out of the woods, right? You've got this, which is your major SNDR area. That's just not what I want to see on the 15. You want on the 15 minute, you want this to be strong, finish. Then this looks like a retracement. To continue higher. You don't want chop and then potentially still your draw to be lower. So I think this is, you know, if we play down follow price, you probably get a long out of this. I just don't like violent out, violent back in. It's just sitting on my hands. And this might very well just clean up that daily low and then beyond, who knows. But I'm not in it. That's just, it's nasty business. Any way you slice it, that's nasty. So we'll see. We'll see. Man, that's rough. That did close underneath too. Good old Jackson Hole. The problem is that this movement has to break structure. ICT traders think that that has, taking that low. And they're probably right. You know, you've got a 5-minute sweep, flat bottom sweep, beautiful. 15-minute sweep. But we've also swept on the hourly as well. So it's not exactly beautiful. I think that some people will catch the low of the day on this. I'm not that interested in that. Not that interested in that right now. But man, oh man. Banger of a trade though, wouldn't it? If there was some sort of like a 5-minute inversion, fine. But we don't really have any of that. The only imbalance we've got is this. Sorry, I was looking at, did it close underneath this 69 low? And it actually looks like it did not. My box was drawn from the bear bar. So it looked like it did, but in fact it did not. Right, so this very well could be a Firefly, and now we're getting sideways PA to then send us back up. Who knows? You guys feeling the music, or is the music a little distracting? This to me is just sus vibes on both sides. Oh, you guys don't hear it. going to wait until I have something to do. Sweeping the 5, not beautiful, right? Violent out, violent back in, also not what I want to see. Right, you've got this, fine, right? But that already dealt with that. We've now disrespected the midpoint, and we saw how well that worked out for the bullish side when we disrespected the bearish midpoint. This is a range. Big time. To the surprise of absolutely nobody inside Jackson Hole, but not really relevant. Make very easy narrative bias for short. You can make the same for the bullish bias since we are inside of a bullish trend. Internally, you put a little bit less weight on that given that it's a range, but yeah, not much intention on the other side. That's going to be one nasty 50-minute sweep if they're going to take the daily low now. What do we got? 90-point range, our morning session. 90. London was quite huge. 850 down to 740. Comparatively, I suppose, still only 115 points. Important as well, like, if this is going to flip, you'd at least have to have some sort of internal movement to then send you back up. We don't have that. We have straight down, rally, sideways, continuing on. Right? If this movement had done this, now you've got at least an internal bullish trend where you might suggest that it's going to attack up here somewhere, or at least the midpoint. Stabbing down to this area yet again. So not really interested in shorting this breaker. I think the shorts would have been in here if you were very, very aggressive. And that would be basically from this movement and the 15-minute failing above. Not exactly the urgency you want. but I'm still sitting on my hands as there's not a lot of systematic trades for me here. So we'll see. And again, you could argue that we've now broken this, trading back in and leaving, and the 5 is now flipped. And I think that's valid for the daily low. Just not a lot that I like. And I think, like, this was a lot more violent. Right, you have your consolidation. This really broke, traded back in, lethargic. We're waiting to see if it can actually flip in here, which looks like it might be, but still hasn't really done anything yet. I'd be very nervous if I was long, let's put it that way. Daily draw. Areas of interest, yes. But they've got to achieve something, otherwise we take them all. That would have been a very, very aggressive short, but I wasn't that interested in it. I like the area of interest. The breaker sent us underneath this bullish push. Good. Right? So we returned to it. We actually failed to make a valid low as well, but we're inside of this stab and the breaker here, so it wasn't that... like if I had to force myself to take a short to the daily low, that would have been an area of aggression, right? Or perhaps something like this after that stall. But you've got this low that's on deck at 54, but we are dealing with this sort of midpoint here, which I'm going to leave because I think that we've got multiple attempts now. So if it fails violently, and you guys are getting paid, beautiful. If not, then, well, we continue on with this as we're still inside a bullish internal structure until this breaks. And not this one, mind you, that's your SNDR. There it goes. Do we get it? New 15-minute candle. Panic. Could be panic in paradise. At least for this low at 45. I think there's so much volume in here that we probably trade back into the 60s if we're going to mitigate before going lower. Take out all the shorts that are hitting it on this close. But if they're selling the breakdown, then they very well could get paid. Just looking at this, how the liquidity seems to be working on these days, this would be an area where people would be quick to take profits. But we'll see. We've got a daily draw lower, 35 being the low. Left it by 2 ticks. 34.50. Left it by 2 ticks. Ran up. About 100 points. Almost 100 points. For 2 ticks. Mercy. There it goes. There she goes. Good morning. Woo. Violent. Very, very violent. What happens after an expanding wedge? If you're looking at like this megaphone, depending on what you call that, this usually runs this other high. But you can look at it being a bear flag as well, like a higher time frame one. Gross. Gross. Right? People will fade this back up into here. And I think that's valid. I think that's valid. Right? If only because look at what happened when longs didn't take profits properly. You then take your daily low. We'll see what ends up happening here. Right? That's a beautiful 5. You're 15 having trouble. If you're fading the longs back in, this is entirely narrative based, mind you. And all of a sudden, everybody's trapped. So I liked my idea earlier for this, but you've got to understand when you're wrong, and this is not what we want to see. This is. Right? I'd be shocked if we held this, but we'll see. You get a 5-minute inversion or imbalance there that we're tapping into right now. So leave that on the chart ball. We'll see. I'd be very curious to see what ends up happening with this low. And let's see what ES is doing as well. Same sort of idea. $10.51, you got a new hourly coming in about 8 minutes as well. Not a lot from aggressive trades, if I'm honest. Even down in here, you're basically just buying on strength, expecting this, but there was no clear flip for me. The inversion happened here, fair enough, chopping back in and then moving if you're completely on with your narrative. Love it. This is an area where it sent us down. You would expect some profit taking here. Yeah, I would agree with that, right? You got a 64.25 high, which we just took. Closure above that's like an intermediate time frame type flip. Right, you barely got your fractal nature down here, and here we are. So it's trading immediately back into the midpoint of this. Now we find out what goes on. But I think no target's lower now. And you get the exact same thing, right? Violent out, violent back in. Violent out, violent back in. Now what? Right back to the midpoint. Probably get some chop in here and then figure out what it wants to do. Or rather, who it wants to mess up. You got 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes until the next hourly. Here's your 2 hourlies of the day. Yuck. But if we're going to expand to the bullish side, this is how we would do it. Almost comically back at our long entry that we took. Ran the highs. New 5-minute candle in 10 seconds. Stabbing the open of this. It's always trading to somewhere. But wait and see if we get any sort of structural retracement. I can't long against this. Or I suppose you could if you wanted to have a wide stop, but I'm not that interested in that. All right, we'll see if it reacts to somewhere in the mid-60s. It very well could just tap and bounce off of this. But you're literally in the middle of this range. And no real ability to get involved in here other than a very aggressive inversion trade, which if you guys took, obviously you're getting paid very, very nicely for with your narrative. But I think all of our objectives to the downside are done, and that leads to a violent movement like this. Conversely, all of our objectives, or at least the lower time frame ones on the daily, are done. Or sorry, in the in the morning session. We still got that London high if it wants to take both. I think we'll find out very, very quickly. Woo! Not today, Alex. That'll be later on in the week. Making our bag instead. This will be interesting. What goes on in here? Take it easy, NW. Violent, then violent, violent, then more violence. I did get long in this lethargic movement. Right, and I'm basically waiting to see what sort of pullback we get, if it's violent or not. So far, it's not. So we'll see if this leads to major expansion. Really good reaction. I think shorts are a little bit spooked now. I don't want it sweeping and failing above here. I want it lifting at least to take out this shelf. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Good morning. You've missed quite the morning. And again, we're looking at this 5-minute high. You've got your 1-minute flip. You get a lethargic movement. Right? So if you're looking at it, that 1-minute flip does what? Should trade to a 5-minute area of interest. We've already validated a 5-minute low. So assuming we continue on, you've now got this high at 88. So the question then becomes, when can we look and say that this is not too high to buy? Because we're stabbing into the midpoint, we want to see the reaction. Okay. That makes sense. Right? So we're essentially looking at this area that was very, very key. We break it, we trade back in. What's our reaction? Do we get this? No. We get strength. So people, I think, we're shorted here. And they should mitigate as we continue higher. The problem is if we don't get massive expansion. But my expectation is that violent, sideways, violent. We actually validated a high, and all that did was create another high. And away and away and away we go. Right? So we'll look for 88s. If this comes back down, then I'll take this off break even, but would expect a little bit more expansion than what this is. Technically a structural zone. We should be able to risk off of it. Still looking at that 5-minute area. VIX at 15. And you could probably argue as well, like, Kev, man, it's Monday, Jackson Hole week. Probably take your 10 to 15 to 20 points when you've got it. And that's probably fair. It's probably fair. But systematically, this is what the system is. Yeah, swing shorts and swing longs for sure. Right? I think objective to objective traders are actually doing very, very well. You've got this pullback. You would expect this to make a new high. It did. Now, in fairness, you left a lot on the table. Like this to this same sort of idea, and I think this objective, the daily one, would have been viable, but. This is a structural area. Right, we got a closer above. That made a valid high. Okay. Just not dealing with anything I like, and I don't like that it swept at 15. That just took me out break even. It just took me out break even. So I did take some as soon as we broke above this high. And that was viable considering that we closed here. I still think that we go higher, but this will probably trade up to here and then we'll see. Good morning. But I think the daily low in this violent movement demands a little bit of respect, whether or not it has to sweep this low out or not. We're going to find out super quick. And this is the danger of getting involved inside a chop. This is the danger. Are we green or are we getting chopped up today, lads? This is kind of gross, how this is reacting. Be really interesting to me. You've got a 5-minute low. You've kind of got your displacement down, and then we inverted here. If that ends up being tagged, that will be like all the way down underneath. There's not really a lot that I like here. I'm drawing enough lines on the chart. Everybody can look like a genius if you draw enough lines. But I'd be shocked if we came back down to like the midpoint of this. So we'll see. Whew. Right? But this area is essentially, you got to be really correct on your direction if you're taking any trades in that. Yeah, literally, like, people will be like, see, see, long if we break this line, long if we break that one, long if we break, like, and they end up having, like, this on the way down. See, I told you I was going to respect support. And then when it goes to like here and it goes on a rocket ship, then this is what Instagram sees, isn't it? Like, I really, really, really wanted a long down here. I really wanted the long down there. Just couldn't justify getting involved. If this would have closed above this, fine. Like, I like that strength a lot. It's really what I want to see. And I'm looking for either a stall candle here, some way of getting involved where I can't just like long and hope that it's going to keep the low. In retrospect, like, you could look at expecting maybe a sweep and fail because of narrative, but this was actually getting thrusted down into quite heavily as well. There's a CSD, didn't quite get us down as far as we'd like. We're still inside of this accumulation. Excuse me, lads. I had an awful sleep last night. This is our flip. This is our trade back in. Right? So we flipped back bearish. Cool. Well, actually, technically we didn't. Right? Your flip would have been underneath this low, which failed. So still bullish, technically. Right? Just looking at order flow, you've got sort of this thing going on. Right? Down, up, breaks, trades up, trades back in, leaves. I'm not long as I'm kind of waiting to see what goes on with this area here. So this very well could sweep and then go. We haven't gotten what I want yet. Lots of chop. Lots of chop in the middle of a higher time frame chop range. Right? So very, very simply, you draw this. Well, you'd actually draw this. And your midpoint is right here at 76. Which coincidentally, we've been chopping around here. We then manipulated higher. We came back into it, chopped around, manipulated lower, chopped around. Excuse me. There. So we'll see what happens when we run this low at 62. Did we run it already? Not yet. There it goes. What you usually expect out of chop is that chop tends to continue. Tends to. And there's very specific ways of expecting it to either continue or, like right now, what we're seeing is quite gross on the order book. Just sort of lethargically sideways and then selling. So we'll see. Being cleared on both sides. New 15-minute candle as well. There goes that flat bottom. A little bit of continuation coming in here. And speeding up. We're now at the midpoint of this current swing. So it'll be really interesting to see what ends up going on here. I'd be a little surprised if we didn't at least return back up to this and or up into here in the 70s. But we'll find out, right? We want to see if this 5-minute inversion is going to hold as well. We did close above this 5, so this low is possible, but you would expect a little bit higher. But mainly we're looking at this violent movement, chop, trading back in, probably trades back up, even if it wants to trade lower. Be unlikely that this just drops like a rock unless they have some real intention underneath that daily low again. Gross any way you slice it. Just a multitude of bearish candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 now. Right? But mainly looking at this. Mainly looking at this. So stabbing back up, we'll see what ends up happening here. We ideally want something strong to then send us back up to the 70s. And you're just kind of playing the range-bound PA until proven otherwise. Just don't really like the extended sell pressure that's come in here. So we'll see what goes on with this. Moment of truth, there should be a reaction here if it's going to continue lower versus lifting. There's that 62. Sweeping that 5, so this is a little bit violent. Still involved as I think we're going to trade up to the 70s. But this is the concern right now, that 5-minute sweep. If, right, we held the imbalance, which is good. Okay, taking a little bit off here. As we are back into our initial objective, if we're going to head lower, it's going to do this and continue. But playing the range and the violence, we've already dealt with this. As somebody in chat mentioned, we have this movement. So expanding wedge. We fail one side, we should take the other, or at least return back to equilibrium. Right, if this fails the 5, then I'm flat. Completely and utterly. Oh, this is gonna get nasty if that makes it a balanced price range. Very choppy market today. People tend to call choppy markets having a lot of noise. I don't think that's true or fair. I think that it's just not the information you want. Choppy markets offer beautiful trading for scalpers. Those that want swing trading and very, very clean algorithmic price action tend to not like those kind of markets. This is just disgusting. Unless you're short, right? Trading back into their area of interest and then drops. This very well could just sweep underneath this 5. We'll see. Welcome to Jackson Hole Week, those of you guys that have not seen it. Still expecting chop. I don't like how violently this is selling, but I don't have to either. Yeah, I don't really like a lot. I mean, I don't even think I'd take a noon curve, if I'm honest. Even if this does decide to end up closing, like, down here. It's probably fair to expect it, but we've already cleaned up the daily low and had a violent reaction. There's not that a lot that I like. Given that it's 11:30 on a Chop Fest day, I'm not inclined to play noon either. Did you guys end up green? Did we take anything? How are we doing? Just the one short early. Red again. Okay. Not a lot of quality trades. I think that this long was definitely something. Like that short. You could even argue this, but again, nothing I was really interested in. I did like this long. It just obviously fizzled out. And we're seeing the results of that. I had to come back down a little bit further. Right, you've got this. But again, not really an expansionary type movement, so we're chopping around. Yeah, I think I'm going to probably walk for the day, lads. Jackson Hole, very, very tight range. Leaning bearish, but can't get involved in anything. No real beautiful movements. I think if this would have flipped, then fair. Right? Flip, trades back in, maybe goes, but didn't like that. This, you could argue. Nothing clean, but probably didn't expect it to be either. We'll post something in the group today for some study. But yeah, definitely not a banger of a day. Probably should have held this long a lot longer than what I did. But we'll chat with you guys in a little while.